Now, I now invite the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency António Guterres, to make a statement.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished friends, to all of you, I wish to state good morning and good evening. It is a great pleasure to speak before you as we commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Fourth World Conference on Women. The Beijing Conference was pivotal, a milestone, a turning point. For many of us, this was a point of in-depth reflection, the bold vision and the transformative agenda of the Beijing Conference. Above all, clearly highlighted the fact that women's rights lie at the heart of equality and justice worldwide. But they also highlighted that these rights are often denied, trampled upon, and flouted worldwide. This was an alarm bell ringing.
we have made some important gains. Maternal mortality is down by nearly 40% since 1995. More girls are in school than ever before in history. But we have not fulfilled the ambitious vision of the Beijing Declaration. One woman in three still experiences some form of violence in her lifetime. Every year, 12 million girls marry before the age of 18. In some parts of the world, levels of femicide, the killing of women, could be likened to a war zone. In 2017, an average of 137 women around the world were killed by a member of their own family every day. And women are still frequently excluded from peace negotiations, climate talks, and decision-making roles of all kinds. Worldwide, on average, women have just 75% of the legal rights of men. And the World Bank estimates that it could take 150 years to achieve gender parity in lifetime earned income. And that closing that gap would generate 172 trillion US dollars in human capital wealth. That is what we are all losing. Excellencies, COVID-19 has emphasized and exploited the continued denial of human rights. Women and girls are bearing the brunt of the massive social and economic impact of the pandemic. 25 years after Beijing, we are facing a women-led recession as women employed in the informal economy are first to lose their jobs. Women nurses and carers are on the front lines of the response to the pandemic, but men still occupy 70% of leadership roles in healthcare. And women are suffering a shadow pandemic of gender-based violence during COVID-19, together with an increase in abusive and repressive practices, including early marriage and the denial of sexual and reproductive health care. Unless we act now, COVID-19 could wipe out a generation of fragile progress towards gender equality. Excellencies, the systems and structures of our world, based on millennia of male domination, are holding women back in all areas with serious consequences for everyone. And COVID-19 demonstrates that we urgently need a strong push to meet the unfulfilled promise of Beijing. This is fundamentally a question of power. And so it starts with equal representation of women in leadership positions, in governments, boardrooms, in climate negotiations, and at the peace table. Everywhere, decisions are taken that affect people's lives. Achieving these will require targeted measures, including affirmative action and quotas. This is a human rights issue and the social and economic imperative. I encourage all member states to make concrete, time-bound and ambitious commitments to women's leadership and full participation. At the United Nations, we achieved gender parity in our leadership at the beginning of 2020, with 90 women and 90 men as full-time senior leaders. We are now working for parity at all levels, not only for the sake of our women's staff, but because women's leadership and participation makes institutions like ours more effective, as we have seen in the response to the pandemic. Excellencies, COVID-19 is a catastrophe, but it is also an opportunity for transformative thinking that puts women front and center of the response and the recovery. Stimulus funds should put money directly into women's hands through cash transfers and credits. And governments should expand social safety nets to women in the informal economy and recognize the value of unpaid care work. I repeat my call for urgent, comprehensive action on gender-based violence. And the United Nations is working to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls, including through our partnership with the European Union, the Spotlight Initiative. Looking forward, we need transformative, women-led changes to the failed structures and frameworks exploited by the pandemic. That is the only way we will implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and achieve lives of dignity and opportunity for all. I also urge your support for the grassroots civil society organizations that have always been at the vanguard of women's rights movement. The upcoming Generation Equality Forum, co-hosted by the governments of Mexico and France, will be an opportunity to build networks and partnership for change. Excellencies, in recent times, we have seen around the world a pushback against gender equality and women's rights. Now is the time to push back against the pushback. And I would like to correct a common misconception. The Beijing conference did not only concern women. It concerned women, men, girls, and boys. Women's full human rights and freedoms are fundamental to peace and prosperity on a healthy planet, for everyone, everywhere. I salute the visionary women and men who led the way 25 years ago. Let us finish what they started, and I thank you.
I thank the Secretary General for his statement. I now